Before anything, a bit of background. I'm not willing to give out my name or the county here, but I live in Colorado. I'm posting this simply because I'm not absolutely sure. This happened when I was 6, but now I'm at least 5 years older. Our family was taking a trip to the mountains, specifically in a cabin owned by my aunt and uncle's family. Near this cabin was a discontinued railroad project, which even tunneled through a mountain. When this happened, it was near the end of the winter months. The result was me spending much more time researching cryptids. Alright, now to the actual story. The entire day had felt off to me. We went on a hike and I couldn't hear any birds or animals. And when we were turning around, I started getting excited because I smelled something coppery and thought it might be copper. The only thing that deterred me is that I felt like if I went to find it, I probably wouldn't come back. For me, it's like a sixth sense. I feel it. I don't know what to do. I don't think it was blood or anything related, but I felt it wasn't safe to chase a smell. This hike was to the eastern entrance of this continued railroad tunnel, then back to the cabin. My parents wouldn't let me go in the tunnel whatsoever, as in, the second I stepped within 10 feet, they would get usually uneasy and tell me to back away from where the rocks might fall. But they weren't looking at me. They were staring at a pile of rocks taller than the others, illuminated by the light from the other side. The walk back was tense and quiet. I was the only one trying to initiate conversations. As we were just leaving the edge, it's when I smelled the copper. As we walked back, my dad kept glancing back at us at random intervals. It was only that night that I actually noticed anything while I was there. There was one bedroom, perfect for a family of 4, but it had one window. I never trusted that window, and I was right not to. That night, my parents were up much longer than usual, but stayed silent. After they fell asleep, I was pondering on their weird behavior, and what I would guess was close to 2 a.m. I felt something. The room cooled down, and I felt horribly cold for a moment. I felt pure dread, and along with the chill, I could almost feel what seemed like hunger of some sort, burning my face at an angle from the window. Whatever it was, I knew it was awake, and it knew that I could tell it was there. Then I felt it. The same feeling of, if I don't do this, I won't get a chance to correct that mistake. So I got up as high as I could. I jumped off the top of the bunk where I was supposed to sleep. Then I turned on a lamp and pointed it at the window while it was in my hands. Whatever it was, we had a mutual feeling of, no, I don't like this one. It was pale in the light, and my fear probably made me the same color. All that I could see in the window was a nearly white head with pits for eyes, no lips, slightly larger and sharper than normal blood-stained teeth, as well as his thin yet broad shoulders, and a single blood-red hand, with abnormally long fingers that ended in a needle-like points which was hovering, poised to shatter the window. A few seconds after the light hit it, it opened its mouth and let out a muffled scream. Blocked slightly by the window, then vanished to the right. The scream woke up everyone, and I was still standing in the dark, pointing a lamp at the window, looking horrified. My parents finally got me to sleep. Don't really know how they managed that, but the next day while we were heading out, I looked at the window from the outside and realized something even more horrifying. The thing had to be at least 8 feet tall. Just to have been able to look at the bottom of the window, because there was a ditch around the edge of the cabin. We took one last hike around 9 a.m. When we looked back in the tunnel, the rocks in the tallest pile had shifted. There was now a deer antler sitting near the top of the shifted pile, and there was now pools of a shiny liquid in the cave. The scent of copper was prominent in the area, and now even the fish in the nearby stream wouldn't surface for air or insects. I would like to reassure on what I saw, but I'm not sure. Next winter, me and my 3 friends of mine are going back to the cabin to go hunting. If I don't post or comment after that, I will leave the coordinates to be posted in the comments in a note before we go. I will respond and post until then, hopefully. Let me start off by saying I'm a complete skeptic. I don't believe in any cryptids, supernatural beings, or anything of the sort. Besides aliens, I used to be fascinated with them as a little kid, But as I got older, I felt that none of it really added up. However, I still have a story of an experience that I can't quite explain rationally, and would love to hear some ideas as to what I saw. I was in the 4th grade, and my family was visiting some friends of friends that live roughly around the St. Croix River Valley. I'm not going to disclose anything more than that. I always felt a little bit uneasy when we visited and played around on their land as a kid. But like I said, I did have a fascination with monsters like Bigfoot, and I thought it would be the prime place for one to be lurking. That night, me and my family were walking to the car to go home, and I can recall the dog barking loud towards the backyard, which was fairly expansive. I can't remember if I was already in the back of my parents' minivan, or looking through the back window, or just about to get in, but I remember looking back to see why the dog was causing such a ruckus. At first I saw nothing. Figured the dog had sensed a random animal and started barking, and out of the brush, right across from the shed, that was about 60 to 100 feet away, came something that appeared to be a white, hairy humanoid. It got up and just walked to the other side of the yard until it was out of sight. I don't think anyone else saw it. It was incredibly silent and took swift strides. I was shocked and didn't say anything. I didn't understand what I just saw. It didn't appear to be like the description of a Sasquatch that I was familiar with. In looking back on it, I still don't think it resembles any commonly described features of a Bigfoot besides being hairy and bipedal, and being much taller than any human. Could not make out any distinct head or neck protrudings from what looked like to be a large torso, nor did I notice any arms. It was all really confusing me. Looking back at it, I feel constant doubt surrounding the experience and often chalk it up to being some sort of bad memory. However, that doesn't make any sense really, either, since I remember who all was there and what we were doing that night. For example, our family friends also had their parents over, grandparents to us children. When I talk about it, I recall or think about the encounter. I get goosebumps and my voice gets weak. What could have I seen that night? Anyone have any similar stories? So, let me just say straight away that I'm a firm believer in supernatural. From a young age, I've had experiences with it, and it becomes a casual thing to me. I'm fully aware of hoaxes and people just wanting views and attention on the internet, but I do believe there is a truth to some of what's out there. My girlfriend not so much. She's never really interacted or had any experiences of anything supernatural, and things she says she has experienced as a child, she's shaken off as a child's imagination. The following experience happened less than 24 hours ago as of writing this post made her question all of this. To set the scene, we were hanging out at good friends of ours who we both love dearly. It was about 3 a.m. when she asked us to walk her home. Being that she lived about 30-ish minutes away, we were more than happy to help her feel safe and escort her home. During the walk, me and my girlfriend had our first dispute of the relationship. It was something petty, but being as it was our first one, we both got rather riled up and raised our voices at each other. We got our friend home, and a few minutes after dropping her off, we hugged it out and admitted we were both in the wrong and moved on. That being said, we were still a little at odds, but only because it was the first time we'd ever conflicted in such a way. This is where it gets interesting. Partway through the walk back, I had offered that if my girlfriend was comfortable, I would stay at my place tonight, rather than back at her dad's like we originally planned. Following this, we began approaching this long and tall hedge, the other side of this leading into a field and foresty area. When we got close, I heard something on the other side of the hedge. Rustling, twigs snapping, leaves being pushed aside. I thought nothing of it. I just assumed it was another person, being our town is known for its drunken chavs that lurk in the dark hours of the morning. We both stopped in front of the hedge as my girlfriend wanted to roll a cigarette. Stressed from their argument, I stand in front of her, and in a split moment that I had my back to her, there was suddenly a jet black and beautiful cat behind her. Disclaimer, I love black cats. I don't agree with the stigma around them and that they're bad luck. My girlfriend also loves cats. She doesn't shut up about them. A new meme during the day, cat meme, interesting video online, cat video, she lives and breathes for them. My girlfriend then proceeded to see the cat and swing around happy to see a lovely black kitty for her to pet. The moment she moved, I had the most sickening feeling in my chest. The hairs all across my body stood on end, almost as if it was a fight or flight instinct went into overdrive. Something wasn't right. I immediately tell my girlfriend to stop. She looks at me in confusion as she gets closer to it, but I tell her again to stop and she walks towards me. She was confused but listened to me. She got close and I immediately began to walk with her home, checking over my shoulder and looking at this cat. It had followed her about a foot as she left, but then almost immediately reset, moving back to the exact same place on the pavement in the exact same position. I know there's nothing abnormal about this, right? So far it was just some rustling, a black cat, and a bad feeling. What followed solidified that I made the right choice. As we moved away, there was a sudden of blood-curdling, distorted and seemingly painful hiss from behind the hedge. I have no way to fully explain to you all of just how awful this noise was, how I could feel it shift through my bones as it deformed and disfigured hiss moved through the air. I quickened my pace and pulled my girlfriend with me. On the way back I explained why I did it, stating about the supernatural, and despite knowing her view on it all, she needed to trust me on this. She was skeptical but trusted me enough to hear me out. We get back to my dad's and sit down having a cigarette and discussing in comfort what had happened. I talked about mimics, goatmen, wendigos, all of it. My girlfriend, who was a skeptic at first, goes pale. I mean, deathly pale. It's then that she tells me about the cat, what it was like when she was close to it. Apparently this cat made no sound, not even of its breathing, that the air around it felt freezing cold. She proceeded to talk to me more about the area of the town we walked through. I lived in a town for a while, but I've never really ventured out of my comfort zone, sticking to the town center and many surrounding area. However, she had lived there all her life and had moved around it multiple times with myself and her family. Apparently the road we were going down, with the hedge and open areas on the other sides, is well known for its disappearances. Most of the missing reports of people and pets in our town are always noted as last seen or around this area. As well as my girlfriend once had a flat near there. She said her old neighbors would tell her not to be out after dark as people go missing. Now, don't get me wrong, this could be nothing. If I was hearing this story from someone else, I would be poking holes in their story and stating how it could have been numerous other things, but trust me, this was something else. Maybe it wasn't a mimic or goatman, wendigo or something, but whatever the hell it was, that thing was not human. We were up until 5:30 talking about what had happened and what she knew about the location. Despite maybe being paranoid, we called our friend saying how we believed it's best that she gets home before dark from now on.
When I was a kid, about 5 to 6 years old, I had regular encounters with shadow people, especially at night, to the point where I would hate going to the bathroom alone at night because they would literally line the walls of the hallway from my room to the bathroom, just staring at me. Despite having no facial features, with the shadow people though, I never felt threatened, just unnerved. One night I had to go to the bathroom and my parents were asleep, so I was stuck going alone. I didn't see any shadow people that night, but I still kept my head down and walked quickly. As a kid, I had anxiety about closed doors for some reason, so I left the door slightly open. I was just about to get up and leave when the door slowly opened. I could hear footsteps down the hall, like someone with shoes on was shuffling on the floor. We don't wear shoes inside, and I felt a really strong feeling of dread. I saw a faint blue turquoise glowing light from the end of the hallway. And then I saw a man walking sideways down the hallway. He was walking sideways, but way more smoothly, like he was gliding effortlessly, like it was the way he always walked. He was smiling and facing into the bathroom. He had brown hair, plastic-like, like a Ken doll, and he was wearing jeans and a turquoise button-up shirt. His arms were out at his sides. Strangely, he didn't seem fully there. His form sort of flickered with bits of color, like when you rub your eyes and see random colorful flashes, but he never disappeared or anything. He was very much real.
I panicked and looked away. I was stuck just sitting there, frozen, until I couldn't hear his shuffling anymore. I looked down the hallway and he was gone, and I ran back to my room. I never told anyone for years, and I don't know why. I don't even think I told my best friend, or brought him up when people would share ghost stories. Then one day, my mom and I were out walking the dog, and the topic of how haunted our old house was. She told me that she had a lot of weird dreams there, but one in particular stood out to her. In her dream, she was in bed. Her room was in the same hallway as mine, facing out into the hallway, and she was very aware that a bunch of people were in the house, and that she wanted them out. Then she saw the same man, walking the same way down the hallway. She got the same feeling of dread and wanted him gone as soon as possible. She didn't tell anyone about him, not my dad, not her sister, no one, and she didn't know why either. When she told me about this, I almost started crying, and I felt a really intense feeling of dread. I still don't know why, but when I talk about him I get choked up and feel really scared, even though I've never seen him since. I don't know what he is, or if he still exists, but neither of us had told anyone about him until that day. I've heard recently that some people report similar feelings of intense emotions when talking about aliens. I posted about him in another subreddit, r/ghost stories, or someone suggested an alien. Maybe that's what he is. Has anyone else in this thread seen him, or anything at all like him? I'd love some insight into what he is, or just another person who has encountered him. From New York City, live in Queens. Walking back home, just got off the subway. Had a beer at a bar a few blocks from home. One block in particular is long compared to the rest, half between 200 and 400 feet approximately. It is houses with front yards and steps, decent polished middle-class neighborhood. Half of this block is in the back end of a big sports field. It's a small sloping elevation, about 15 to 20 feet tall, about 6 meters long. Big tall fence in the front of this. As soon as I turned into this corner, I see something that resembles a human figure. It was just a sign in the shape of a cross, with an arrow pointing left. I thought, what a good night to get abducted by aliens. Chuckle and think about a music project I'm working on. Get past the houses, and I'm walking back to the back side of the field. I hear something. A raccoon? Herd scrambles to small feet, ruffling of some leaves and quiet chittering. I keep walking and I heard struggle, wings flapping and a bird screeching in pain, and grunts, and the sound followed me along, behind the fence. It was dark and I couldn't see anything. Some parts were blocked off with metal sheets. The sound was getting intense and loud. I could hear more animals dying and also purring and cooing, like a pigeon or a cat chirping. Then there was a crow cawing and frog singing like it was near a shallow swamp. I'm originally from South America and spent time in fields and whatnot, and it sounded like many animals. At first I thought it was the chupacabra, but then I heard too many sounds. I thought it could have been the devil. Even a woman moaning in the distance and a manly grunt next to me, and it followed me along the block. At the end of the block there was an empty lot with another fence separating the two places. This thing went towards the top of the slope and climbed in the shortest fence. It took no time to catch up with me. I turned to the right in the corner, and this thing comes along, now snarling like a hungry dog. At the end of the empty lot, a raccoon jumps out through a hole in the fence, but the sound I could still hear, I walked away. It sounded angry. Mind you, this whole time I was scared. I literally had chills running up and down my body. I moved out of the sidewalk and in the street. I could still hear it. I'm finally out of the area and on my house's block. I'm shaking as I unlock the door. I truly do not know what I heard. There is a word in Spanish, inverosimil, something impossible to understand. That was it. I do not know what I heard. The event I'm about to tell you happened in January 2005 at Devon, United Kingdom. Every Wednesday evening, my little brother and I got a chance to take our 3 dogs out for a walk. As I walked every day apart from them, on this particular evening we decided we'd walk somewhere different, So after about an hour of walking through different fields and taking different turns, we came to some woods. We should have really turned around by then, but we decided to go on. It started to get dark, but we didn't care. We felt safe having the dogs around. After 20 minutes of walking through the woods, we became aware of one of the dogs was barking hysterically and acting in a strange way. Soon after, the other 2 dogs began doing the same. My little brother and I became very frightened as we did not know what they were barking at and we didn't know where we were. As soon as we noticed what they were barking at, my little brother grabbed my arm and pointed at a huge beam of light in the sky. It was like nothing I've ever seen in my life. It was extremely bright, very silent, and was moving very, very slowly. I knelt down holding the dogs and my brother very tight. I felt I had to try and protect them. The fact that I was 18 meant nothing. I was just afraid of them. It took around 10 minutes to fly out of sight, and when it did, I was relieved. Up ahead, we could see the end of the woods. We walked very fast because by now it was very dark, which made the whole experience more terrifying. Little did I know it was about to get a whole lot worse. The dogs got to the opening of the woods before us and soon began barking again. Instantly, my brother clung to me. We slowly approached the opening, to which there was a huge field, but there it was. The enormous object what we had seen overhead was at the very bottom of a vast field. We crouched down and just stared. We didn't speak at all. This time there were no lights, just a cold-looking object. It was very far away, so we didn't feel that threatened by it, but then all of a sudden I noticed something emerging from the craft one by one. They were around 8 to 10 beings. We were too far away to see their faces, thankfully, but they were quite clearly prodding the grass with something. The dogs were silent, just sat watching what was going on. They seemed as intrigued as we, and seriously couldn't believe what I was looking at. We sat watching them for roughly 10 minutes. That was until my brother persuaded me that we should start the walk back. He was right, but although I was petrified, I just could not stop watching them. I kept thinking that I'll probably never see anything like this in my life. We eventually made it home. I could not even speak because I was so in shock. Our mom and dad surprisingly believed us, but not many other people did. I don't care because they didn't see it and we did, and I'm grateful for it, although I won't ever be going there again. I just know I would never ever forget it. I don't want to make this too long, but I also want to try to be as descriptive as possible to increase the odds of figuring out what the hell just happened. So, wall of text warning. I live in North Carolina, Durham specifically. My family lives in a standard 2-story house in the middle of a run-in-the-mill neighborhood. Lots of intersecting roads, etc. On the night of question, about 2 nights ago, my family was going to visit a relative who had given birth recently in Greensboro, so I had the house to myself. I was getting home around 8 to 9 and decided to bring my dog in. She stayed outside in the kennel for the day until we bring her in for food the night. Our house has a garage attached to the left of it, and the garage has a back door that leads into the backyard. Her kennel is just to your right as you exit the door, with a 4 to 5 feet clearance path in between it and the garage. There is also a bed of rock just up against the house. This will be important. She had recently been taken to the vet for her distressed behavior, which is why I had to stay home with her. The evening went fine. I watched a movie to pass the time. I then decided to take her out to use the bathroom before being put up for the night, around 12 to 1. This is where I lost my shit. I took her out of the back garage door with her long leash. I was wearing socks and didn't feel like getting them soaked. She usually does her business in the little clearing between the kennel and the garage, so I let her walk down through it. Our garage has a single light on the back wall, not LED or really bright, so I can see her somewhat well while she does it. She's facing me when suddenly her backside lifts almost 1 or 2 feet into the air. Paranormal or not, I fucking screamed at this. I assumed some wild dog or something had tried to drag her. She runs back to me and I hear rustling among the rocks. This figure stops right as it enters visible view in the light. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was tall, I'm 6'2" and had to look slightly up to see where I thought its head was. It was pale, but not white or gray, just normal pale flesh color, like someone who spends a week or two indoors. It was lanky, not really anorexic or anything, but definitely disproportionate. It looked at me for a good 1 to 2 seconds before it backtracked it in the quickest manner I could have never replicated. As soon as it went, I booked it back inside. I was torn about calling the police if neighbors who had heard my scream hadn't. Behold, almost half an hour later the police arrived in my driveway. I told them what I had seen, a man in the backyard, leaving out the whole tall demon shit going on. I had been contemplating whether or not it was some creature or some NBA-bound nude meth head. Once again, I don't count myself as a believer in the Bigfoot or Mothman, but I really don't know what the fuck happened. I'm most definitely not taking the dog out alone anytime soon. What the hell was this thing? Why was it in a suburban neighborhood? Should I bother telling my family when I get back?
I've always thought the paranormal was bullshit, mainly because it was always the same cliche stereotype crap, the creaky house, the moving door from the wind, etc, etc. But ever since my mother died, I've experienced some incredibly weird things, and I can honestly say that I'm a believer now. My mom died 8 months ago. A few weeks after she died, she was young, only 46. I was playing Red Dead 2 with my buddy to try and help cheer me up. I had a headset on, and I heard the most clear and vivid voice say, "Adam." For privacy, my name isn't actually Adam, but it still very clearly said my real name regardless. I'm talking incredibly clear, like no part of me hesitated or thought, that kinda sounded like my name. It was clearly her voice, and the same tone and emphasis on the letters in my name that she'd use. My head immediately shot to the right where I heard it. It was so crisp and loud that I expected her to just be standing there still alive as if nothing ever happened. After that, I was walking out of my bathroom one night and heard rapid whispering behind me. Once I turned off the light. Loud enough to where I'd say maybe a foot behind my ear, but quick enough to where I have no idea what it said. A few days after that I woke up in the morning and went to the bathroom to find the medicine cabinet swung open, the shelf bent and hanging off, the contents of the cabinet thrown all over the floor. My sister apparently had something happen in her bathroom the same night, although I can't remember what it was. My dog, her dog formerly, never barked at anything unless someone knocked at the door. Now, anytime I'm alone in the house, he'll randomly jump out of the bed and bark rapidly at nothing. When it's something he heard outside, he stands at the door, but he doesn't do that. He stands in the living room, barking, while looking all around. My sister and aunt have both experienced some odd things too, and I've had a few more smaller things happen. I've always been the rational one of the family, always explaining to someone why it's ridiculous that the bump they heard or the thing they saw can easily be explained. Now, I'm not too sure.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jensen here. I want to thank you so much for watching my videos and taking time out of your day to come over here and enjoy my content. I know I'm still a very small channel. I want to thank you guys so much for getting me to 1K subs. I've changed up my description field a little bit so you can follow all my social media accounts if you want to see a little bit more what I do. I'm a little more social over there. You can also get me on my Discord that's linked. I have my own server. We have a lot of fun. We just talk, we post memes, selfies, stuff like that. I'd love to see what you guys want to see in the next video, so if you can drop a comment down below what you would be interested in. I definitely look at the comments all day long. I love hearing your comments. I love responding to you guys. You guys are so fun. And if you guys can drop a like on this video, that would just be amazing. Thank you so much. Alright, bye.